Swaslay na Tinaknia. Welcome to Season 2 of Khmer Voices. Here we shine a spotlight on the achievements of the Cambodian diaspora around the world. I'm your host, Vani, aka Vanny. The guest on Episode 2, Season 2 of Khmer Voices is therapist Mao Beckett. Now, Mao's Instagram posts always leave a strong impression on me. Knowing she's Cambodian American and understands the nuances of our community makes me feel seen and understood. So I was delighted when she agreed to come on the show and talk about her journey on becoming a therapist. And I learned she doesn't approach sessions like what you see on TV. In this episode, Mao shares her journey as a second-generation Khmer American. She reflects on her cultural identity, family dynamics, and the impact of her upbringing on her mental health. She also shares her journey from military service to pursuing a career in mental health. Today, Mao is a liberation-centered EMDR-certified practitioner. Don't worry, we get into what that means. She's also a somatic-spiritual therapist and guide. She supports individuals in healing relational wounds, overcoming internalized oppression, and improving interpersonal connections. She helps folks reconnect with themselves and reclaim their voice. Her decolonized, non-pathologizing approach fosters transformation in mind, body, spirit, and community, guiding people to build ecosystems rooted in collective care and resistance to systemic harm. Tinaknia, doesn't she sound intriguing? I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mao.
I actually one of your previous hosts was like, well, it started in the ancient lands of Savanapom. And I was like, yes, it did. So to not bite his style, but very really want to piggyback on that. Yeah, like a descendant, right, of the Savanapom. Like we don't say that enough. And I really want to give Vanda and his team their flowers for bringing that back to the collective consciousness of who we are, where we came from, and who we still have in our bones. And when the guest said that, I was dying, but I felt that so hard. So I really appreciate him saying that. And the work that I do with Bong Ryan from All Things Cambodian has really solidified that for me too. So yeah, so I would consider myself now a second gen Khmer American. For the longest time, I had identified as first gen American. And I think for me, that it gave me kind of a roadmap, right, to kind of understand the struggles that I had being the firstborn here, because I, like many first gen born in America or in diaspora, really, right? We were kind of given this torch to figure out a lot of stuff for our families. And that comes with a lot of burden and responsibility. So for a long time, I kind of sat with that identity. But as I'm doing a lot more work and just learning the layers of our history, second gen has been really landing for me. So I would say I identify as a second gen immigrant too, right? I'm only one removed from being an immigrant. A lot of us also have immigrant mentalities despite growing up in a different land. My partner who's European descent, racialized as white, teases me and goes, your refugee bite is still here. Can you put your refugee bite in the fridge? And I'm like, I do that. I won't throw it away. I keep it. And I've never had scarcity. I never not had food on the table. I grew up very well, right? In abundance. But again, it's just interesting to see these patterns. So I was born and raised in Lynn, Massachusetts. Only about 45 minutes south of Lowell, Massachusetts, which is the second largest Khmer population in the diaspora after Long Beach, California. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't too far from that. Lynn had a good Khmer community. I grew up with other first gen, American born second gen kids and lots of other families, Khmer families, but we didn't have the culture the way that Lowell, Massachusetts did, where they had like dance, rabam, and all of that, and languages.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that in Lynn. It was very siloed. So I do recognize like there was a little piece missing in that upbringing.
Sorry, can you
Both
clarify
my
how
parents.
far
Oh yeah,
is Lynn? Yeah, how far is
yeah,
Lynn from Lowell?
like 40-45 minutes
Okay, so not far at
drive.
all. Okay.
No, not far at all. Yeah, just far enough to be like annoying, right, in traffic.
Yeah.
Where my parents are like, oh, hot that way, I jumped that way, right? Like they're like, no,
Yeah,
good. Yeah, but Revere was close, and Revere had Khmer folks. They actually had Shirley Ave, so shout out to my Shirley Ave folks. They had a street, which was kind of like little Cambodia town, which is nice. So we would go to Revere because they had more Khmer restaurants and stores. Yeah, so my parents actually met when they came to the States. They met through a mutual friend. So my dad is from Siem Reap. My mom is from Battambang. And my mom's about 10 years younger. So kind of the age difference. And I think that spoke to their experiences during the Khmer Gaham and everything like that too. So my dad actually was a resistance fighter. I grew up hearing his stories because I was really curious all the time. I asked 1,000 questions, and he's so amazing. So I was very humbled in speaking to other folks, not just Khmer folks, but just people in general, but especially Khmer folks that like didn't have the dad that I had, because he shared so many stories. He was so open. He always told me like, you are Gon Khmer, you come from Khmer. Like he just really cultivated that for me. So that really helped with my sense of self and my identity. My mom was much younger. She was only 9 when it happened. The genocide happened. So when she came over, she was a baby, right? I have a 9-year-old. I could not imagine the parentification. She had to take care of her younger brothers also. She was like the youngest girl, but she was like in the middle. So then she had 3 younger brothers after her. So they went over to Fresno, LA area, I want to say, in California. My dad actually went to San Francisco when he immigrated into the States, but he actually fought the war for a couple years before that happened. So he fled the border and got into a Thai refugee camp. And I thought, for the longest time, I'm like, he was like, oh, it was kind of like a jail, like we got in trouble. And I'm like, how can you get in trouble? But now that I find out, like, you could be like legal refugee status in camps and stuff. So I guess he didn't have like legal status yet or whatever. But he was such a charmer. So he actually has like sakyon all over his body. He had it done. The sakyat tattoos at the Thai camps. So growing up, my dad had the tattoos on his fingers, his chest, his arms, his back, just like this amazing, beautiful sakyat. And I asked him about that. And I think that's how the communication came up. It was like, yeah, I got it because I was in Thailand and, all that. And yeah, he told me he was going to get maybe like legal status or get sponsored. And when he was going to, a truck came and was like, hey, who wants to go fight against the Khmer Gaham? And he's like, absolutely me. So he hopped on that truck bed and had long hair and went straight into the jungles and started training. And he had trained other people, and it was a really like phenomenal, like I feel it now as I talk about it, just this really wild full circle, because I joined the military at 19. And when I joined, we had those, like, I don't know if you've seen those, like they call them woodland BDUs, where it's like the 3 colors, like the green, black, brown, dark brown. So it's kind of camouflage, right? It's the camouflage fatigues. I used to wear that back at home to take pictures with him and blah, blah, and to show him. And he's like, I had those. I'm like, no, you didn't. He's like, no, I wore those. I had those when I was fighting Khmer Gaham. I was like, how did you get American uniforms? He's like, because they would drop them on the border of Sir Khmer in Vietnam to give to the folks fighting against the Viet Cong. So he wore the same uniforms I wore, like 20 years later, or I wore the same uniforms he wore 20 some change years later. So that was really wild.
When he joined the resistance?
Later teens. I want to say he was like 17, 18. The math is like off because I don't know what his real like birth year is. So I would say he was like 1920s, around that time frame. Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was
goodness. And so he had already left Cambodia, was in a Thai refugee camp, and then went back to fight. Oh my goodness.
yes, in flip-flops and the in the military uniform.
Whatever he had. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was so like diplomatic with like his answers, because of course my little brain was like, "Daddy, did you kill anybody?" Like, and he was like, would always be like, "I had to survive." Like, I had to
How
survive.
old
He
were
would
you
never
when you
say
started
yes.
asking him these questions?
Oh my gosh. As I can as early as I could remember talking, right? Like, I think of having conversations with him at like 4 or 5.
Did you have the
Yeah,
same
hearing
sort of
these stories.
conversations with your mom?
I tried, absolutely. Yeah, I was not scared to ask questions, and she was a lot more
Mm.
hesitant. She would give me
Mhm.
very short answers. She would tell me, like, I do really appreciate that she would tell me what she could remember, but I could tell it was really uncomfortable and like painful for her. But as a kid, I'd be like, your stories are boring. Like, I feel like I didn't expect her to like be in the war, but I'd be like, oh, that's it. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
and then walk
Yeah,
away.
well, you had no understanding of
Right.
what happened, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't know. I didn't know the severity of it all when my parents were talking when I was growing up, and I didn't really it was just like, they're talking about the war again, and I never knew the
Right.
severity of it as a young child. And it wasn't until, I was in my teens, and and by that time, I started asking questions too, and I would be met with kind of like answers that were sort of like jokes, or
Mm-hmm.
one or two word answers, and then the topic would change. So it
Right.
was
That's what
never
I
a
got from my
comfortable.
mom.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you learned a lot
Yeah.
about your
So that
dad
was
from a
my
young
dad's story.
age.
Definitely. Yeah. I remember going to Lowell. They had a theater, and there was a screening of the Killing Fields, the movie, The Killing Fields. My dad took me to that. I was like, I don't know, 7, 8.
Mm.
Like, I had a Lisa Frank. I don't know if you remember Lisa Frank, the the sticker stationery. I don't know if that made it to Canada, but it was like huge in America. Like, it's like unicorns, and like it was very 80s and 90s. I remember I had a sticker box that I was like, "Can I take this to watch this movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And I remember taking that, watching Killing Fields in Lowell, Massachusetts. Like, I still remember going over like the bridge and stuff. So yeah, my parents were very, and again, it was more my dad's doing, very like, I want
Uh,
you to know where your people and where you came from. So I
yeah.
am very grateful for that. So again, like, yes, I mean, on paper that sounds amazing. I also dealt with the assimilation, right? Like the forced assimilation, right, of like having to fit in, not
Mhm.
seeing like us in representation growing up. So I, again, very grateful for going to schools that had Khmer kids, but a lot of times it was like 1 or 2 or 3. Like, we were still the
Mhm.
very minority, and I didn't realize just how new we were to the country as a population.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, "Are you Chinese?" And I'm like, and I would remember getting really upset because I'm like, "No, like, what?" Like, and I just hated having the conversation over and over again as a kid. So I would tell my
Right.
dad, like, "Ugh, I wish I was Chinese so I wouldn't have to tell them no." My dad's like, "You're not Chinese." Like, "You're Khmer." And I'm like, "I know." He's like, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with being Khmer." Like, I felt like there was something wrong because they didn't
Uh-huh.
know us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
W-
kind of growing up.
Did you know if they knew about Vietnam?
I don't think they did. We didn't have a lot of Vietnamese folks
Okay.
in our town. Yeah, it was a lot. We had a lot of immigrant families, but they were more from like Central and South America. So
Okay.
so yeah,
Okay.
we were very newly immigrated.
Did you have siblings?
I grew
Yeah.
up as the only child. Yeah. So
Okay.
I lived with them for a long time. Like, my parents were together until I was like 12-ish. And then they
Okay.
separated. But the whole time I was the only child, wanted a sibling, begged for a sibling, but they were like, nah, like we're good. I don't think they liked each other very much. Sorry to put their business out there, but they didn't like each other. They were very different people, so I really recognize that too. And yeah, so it was very lonely in that space of like being the only child, but I got everything I wanted in the world. Like I would say I was hella spoiled when it came to like materialistic things. But my dad, when he was around, was extremely like attuned. And I find that like also so special to think about, or when I hear about other people's experiences when their dads are very like patriarchal and quote unquote traditional. It's not tradition, it's patriarchy, right? Like and the gender roles and all of that. My dad was not. He was like, you don't have to learn to cook and clean. Unfortunately, that was my mom's like role, like, and he cooked too. He was a huge cook, so he like helped and all of that too. But he was just like putting all the efforts in studies. He's like, make sure you are, the smartest in the class and blah, 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 and all of that. So that was a really like lonely experience, being the only one at the house and not having anybody to like play with all the time, because they were tired. They're like, I don't want to play. No, like a lot of times I was like, they were like, no, like my dad, when he was around, but my mom she worked like more factory manual jobs, and she was tired a lot.
Sounded like your childhood was good, your early childhood years. What happened in the teen years? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, well, I would say for a long time it was good, but coming back to what healthy child development is, it was not good, right? Like there was a lot of emotional neglect because my mom did not I don't want to say she didn't care. She didn't have capacity for my feelings, right? Like, so for experiences, right? Dad left a lot, so he would actually go back to Khmer. So he returned in the 90s. So if you think about like during that time, there was still a lot of internal conflict because the Vietnam was the Vietnamese were actually the ones that liberated us. And there was a lot of like stuff happening. So he went back to Siem Reap and created like a brick making factory and helped was trying to help build roads and stuff there. So he would leave a lot. And it was very normal during that time growing up of like, oh, dad's leaving. But now, like when I do my own therapy and healing, a lot of the work is healing those moments of when dad left, not understanding like, why is the person that I am so close to and love so much leaving me so much? Because he would like he wouldn't be like, dad's leaving, so and so. He'd be like, oh, I'm leaving and I'll see you later, and it would never tell me how long he would be gone for. So yeah, so it was just like waiting and waiting. So yeah, so on paper it looks good, right? Because there wasn't physical violence or verbal abuse, but there was a lot of lack, right? And I wanted to bring that to the space because a lot of us experience that, right? Like, because trauma and distress happens also in the lack of things that happen too. So yeah, so it took me a long time to recognize. Yeah, so it took me a long time to recognize that of like, there were things that I didn't get as a kid that affected me in the present time. And that's a lot of the work that I do as a therapist now and guide, is helping folks like get that context also. So yeah, thank you for letting me kind of share that piece, because I skim over it. Yeah, and I wanted to kind of share that experience if folks can kind of resonate also with it. Yeah.
You said that your dad didn't put these traditional roles and expectations on you, and education was what he asked you to focus on. Did you have someone that you looked up to in that aspect? Like when you grew up, what did you want to do?
Not job wise. When I was a kid, I actually wanted to be a singer and an actor. I wanted to do entertainment, and I wanted to be a writer. My dad always told me, you're so smart, you can be a doctor and blah, 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 all of that. You can be a lawyer. So I'd be like, oh yeah, like I'd play around with that idea. But I do remember every time, those school always ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like a singer, yeah, and an actress like in the arts. So yeah, so I remember just loving like pop culture and entertainment and all of that. But when it comes to like role models, it really was my dad. Like I thought he was such a I still do. He passed 3 years ago, but he's still such like a superhero to me. Even as recognizing the man had faults cuz he's human, right? Like I try not to
Mm-hmm.
romanticize everything, but I do like he was truly like the rock to everything. And I think that's why it was so hard when he would leave, that like left these wounds as a
Mm-hmm.
kiddo, is cuz like he was
Would
my only bond.
So they separated when you were 12. So would you go back and forth between the two? And then when he went to
No,
Cambodia, you would just stay with your mom?
no, he went to Cambodia while they were still together. So he would leave a
Oh,
lot
okay.
while they were still together. So as long as I can remember, at like 4, he would go back and he would go to Khmer for a while, and like because he had a business there. And then I
Uh-huh.
witnessed a lot of marital issues between them that as a kid you should never witness, like just drama.
Mm.
And that is not healthy for a childhood development, because it causes you to be like to parentified, right? Like because subconsciously and out of survival, kids are going to be like, let me not be as dramatic, and let me not bring this up, or let me hold in shits because I don't want to bring more stuff to the family. So that was a messy dynamic that I, reflecting back on, that my mom brought me into. My dad was like, do not talk about that shit around her. Like or like he would shut it down. And my mom, and she would get like super like passive aggressive, and she was
Mm.
young too, so I really want to offer that compassion to her too, is like she was young.
Mm-hmm.
I was her only child, so she's like, what do I know? Right? Like what,
Yeah.
it's fine, she's smart, she can figure it out, right? So yeah, so when they split, weirdly enough, I actually ended up staying with my mom, because we were fine. We were I during until I was 12. It was until like I went to like high school, the teens. She did not like me as a teen, and to be fair, I mean, I no, not to be fair. In my defense, I was not a like huge rebel. Like I just was like hanging out with my friends, like I didn't want to study all the time.
Right.
So, and I gave her attitude, right? I talked back. I
You were
didn't
a
cuss. I
teenager.
can I was a teenager, so I can really speak to, like, I never cussed at her. I just was like, she would talk ish to me, and I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
that's rude, I don't like that. And she'd be
Mm.
like, always talking back to your mom, that's Bob. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
she would tell me all the time, you're going to hell. I'm like, oh, you're going to hell, that's Bob. I was like, I've been going to hell like 5 years ago. Might as well. So yeah, I was a little shit. So me and her would go at it all the time, just mad at each other. And now that I look back, that dynamic was very sisterly, because
Mm.
she wasn't that much like, she had me when she was 22. But when you
Mm.
think about trauma and development, like
I was gonna say that.
emotionally, she was a teenager too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Sometimes I catch myself doing that with my kids too. I'm 42,
totally.
and I'm like, hold on, why am I trying to have an argument with a 7-year-old?
Right. You're like,
So
I'm
I
the adult.
gotta,
I'm the adult. I'm the
yeah,
adult.
I need to chill. I need to step back.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing that? But it's just, I think, obviously, my parents did the best they could, and
Right.
I recognize what they've been through. It's just when you were parented that way, you have to.
Mhm.
It's hard not to just default to that, right? So
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
trying to be
Yeah.
very cognizant of what I didn't appreciate and what I think my parents should have approached it in a certain
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's trying to like break the cycle thing is more difficult
So
than
real.
it sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Because it's not just a cycle of like, behaviors. It's literally automatic neurobiology that we're trying to break through, right? It's also breaking the cycle of being activated in our nervous system. So there's so much encompassing that we're trying to break through, that has been worn in and patterned in for decades. So yeah, so I always offer folks that I do the work with, when we're trying to shift behaviors and thoughts and feelings, is like, this has been the norm for so long. It's not going to be a one-time thing. It's like doing muscle reps.
Yeah. Okay. I want to definitely talk about what you do, but I also want to
Hmm.
cover how you got there. So, high
Yeah.
school, you're a teenager.
Right.
What did you do after high school? Did you go to college or did you
Yeah.
work a bit?
Yeah, so high school, me and my mom would get into it a lot. When I reflect back, it was because, well, not because, part of it was, again, she was a teenager herself inside. I was battling a lot of depression, right? Like, and it wasn't it didn't manifest as cognitive, right? So some of the things, like one of the symptoms of depression could be like a low sense of self, right? Like a lot of negative mindset. Another part of that is physical symptoms. So for me, I just could not get up to go to school. Like I hated waking up. And it wasn't just like my teenage, and I would be like, I skipped school a lot just to sleep, right? So that's one of the symptoms, is like either really increased sleeping or decreased sleeping. So yeah, so when I go, and then I was really irritable when I was in school. I just had such a
Mm.
short fuse with people that like talk to me the wrong way. When I think back, I'm like, you were a jerk. So yeah, so as I recognized that, yeah, I had like I struggled a lot with depression, and my mom was just like, you're being lazy, you don't want to go to school,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And when I did great. Like it was easy for me, and I love education. It was just not built for me. Or
Uh-huh.
I was not in the space for it. So with that, I had an amazing psychology teacher that when I did go to school, I would connect a lot with, and that sparked my interest and love for psychology, forensic psychology specifically. I used to watch. I don't know if it's like, I imagine it's international, but Law and Order,
Yeah.
the show Law
Yeah.
and Order, yeah, SVU, the Special Victims Unit. I loved that show. I would watch that when I skipped school. So um yeah, I really loved that, and that teacher really helped me kind of hone in on my interests. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a therapist. Like and I
Uh-huh.
also want to help teenagers like me struggle on the struggle bus with things. And that's when I recognized, like, oh yeah, my mom does not care. Or like I would reach out and try to talk to her or share what I was going, and she was like, you live in America, you're fine. Like a lot of that, like it was super dismissive, no space
Mhm.
for my emotions, right? Like, and that's where I would get so frustrated at her, because I'm like, Ma, I'm trying to talk to you. Like, why are you being so mean? And she'd be like, she's really critical. So yeah, we would go at it
Mhm.
a lot. So, and I remember therapy was not huge back then. This was like 2002, 3. And
Mhm.
I knew of therapy. So I was like, Ma, we need to go to therapy. She was like, absolutely not. And I was like, okay, cool. So when I, yeah, learned about it, I was like, okay, I want to do this. And I knew there was money in it. So I was like, I also want to make the money in that too. And yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to school for psychology. Well, my depression got really bad. So I was not going to school. I like essentially dropped out of high school. And that same psychology teacher saw me at Dunkin' Donuts. I used to work at Dunkin' Donuts, like 14 to 19. She
Uh-huh.
saw me and was like, dude, what are you doing? She's like, you're like 3 credits away from graduating. I was like, for real? She's like, yeah, just go to summer school, get your diploma. I was like, okay. So I went to summer school. And this shows how complex me and my mom's relationship was, right? So not all, like, relationships are messy and complex, and it's not black and white. She would actually pick me up because I was living with a boyfriend at the time. um,
Mhm.
she picked, like, I would take the bus to my city, and she would pick me up from the bus stop and drive me to the school. And then I would just take the bus home. So like she supported me in going to the summer school. So like there
Mhm.
are ways where she would show support and love. Um so I do want to recognize that, right? Like that, like she tried
Mhm.
in her ways, but also recognizing like I needed it also in a very unconditional way too. And she wasn't capable of that. And she showed that throughout our also in our like adulthood, when I would try to connect and she just could not like receive it and give
Aw.
it. So long story
Uh-huh.
short, like me and her are estranged, because that's just better for a relationship. to not have the contact, because it would just be a back and forth. Like, so she did support me. So I got my diploma that way. And then from there, I tried college a little bit. It was just too much freedom I was only 17, like, when I graduated. So I was 17 going into college with, like, even more flexibility. So I did not go to class. Like, I failed out of my first semester because I just refused to go. And it was too easy. Like our English class was literally learning, and I know there's a need for it, but we were literally learning the difference between there, and there.
No.
Like yes, I swear. And I was like, I'm not paying out of pocket for this private 2-year school to learn that. Absolutely not. So there was no incentive to go. So I didn't go. Then I turned, so that was 18, 19. And then, and I just was feeling super stuck. And then I was dating a boy that was like, I'm joining the military. And I was like, ew, why? And he was like, because it's easy and you get benefits. I was like, tell me more about this benefits and easiness. So I went with him to the recruiter's office as support. I was not like going to do it. And then, of course, the recruiter did his recruiting and was like, oh, you want to try to take the test, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I guess. So it was all voluntary. I was not pulled in or whatever. So I ended up joining. Yeah. So I ended up joining the Air Force active duty at 19. And I did that for 7 years.
Wow. Did you have to actually go into war zones?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
was deployed to Iraq.
I'm going to ask you the question. You what? Sorry?
I was deployed to Iraq.
Did you
2010.
If you don't mind me asking, did you have to do anything that you weren't comfortable doing?
Yeah, going to war. Like, that sucked. Yeah,
well,
of course.
Yeah, but in terms of, actually, like, shooting people, like, what
I was
were
not
you doing
combat.
there? Yeah.
Yeah. So my job was, when I joined the Air Force, I had been in for some time before I actually deployed. So I joined 2007 as a public health technician, which was preventative health. I loved it. Like, well, not the job in the Air Force, but just the science. Like, I love public health. I really, that actually geared me towards like why I picked social work as my master's. But yeah, I loved public health, learned like epidemiology, entomology, communicable diseases, like all that fun stuff. So when I deployed, it was actually not even for my job. It was to be a on-base security detail. So yeah, we had to carry M9 and an M16. So we were armed the whole time. And this was when President Obama had pulled, quote unquote, people out of Iraq. But while they were pulling it, they had to bring people in to support that mission of pulling people out. So yeah, it was annoying. So I was there for about 4 months total.
Okay.
So yeah, so I was on base. I was not part of combat. Not everybody that deploys does combat. A lot of that is like Army infantry or the Marines. I was Air Force, so a lot of Air Force personnel, regardless of their job, is like support. So sometimes it's outside of the wire, meaning like you go into like the villages and all of that, but a lot of it is like supporting the mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was your boyfriend doing the same thing too?
No, so his job, so the boy that I dated, we ended that really quickly. Yeah, no, that did not last, because he was not nice. So no, he ended up getting he like was my job, but I realized he was trash, so I did not date him anymore. So that was for the best. Distance was for the best.
You were deployed for 7 years, you said.
No, I was I was active duty. Yes, I was, in the military service for 7 years, but only in Iraq for 4 months.
Okay. So
yeah, but away from home for a lot of that, because I got stationed in different places.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about that then? Like, where did you travel to and what you did?
So your first place is training, basic training, and then your technical school. So that is for me was Texas. The Air Force is in Texas, and then it depends on your job. depending on your job, you go to different places. So I stayed in Texas because my job was in Texas. So I ended up being in Texas for April to September. So whatever that math is, I was there. And then my first base, my duty station was England. So I lived in England for 2 years as a 19-year-old, which was amazing. It was like the college experience without college.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. So we worked like a 9 to 5 and, did some missions but met some really awesome, amazing people that I like stay connected with now. So that was amazing. And I got to travel, like I got to do a lot of leisurely travel through Europe from there. So yeah, that was great. And then my tour was up after 2 years and then I got sent to New Mexico, Albuquerque. And that's where I met my partner now. He was in the mental health field at that time. So I got a little like kind of view of what mental health was in the military, in the Air Force. So we met there. And then we got married and then got sent, we asked to be moved closer to home. So home was Massachusetts. So we got stationed at a base like 30 minutes west of my hometown of Lynn, which was awesome. So I got to go back home on my last leg. And then I separated from there. So I finished my tour and I was like, I'm done. I don't want it anymore. And then that's where I went to my master's.
Okay. So when you say you're done, like they can't call you back?
Not anymore. So not now. No, I've been out of the military longer than I've been in, but there is a period of time frame that you're in the reserve. So if things like really go off the like rails, they can call you back. So I think that was an extra like year or two, but you don't report, you don't do anything. It's just like, hey, be on call
just
or
in case.
But
yeah,
just in case. But yeah, no, I'm completely like I'm very vocal. I'm very anti imperialism and war and all of that. And so like I really shifted and been like really shifted my perspectives on what I colluded to, what I did in the military also, and just seeing in real time and experiencing what that was like, and then being able to critically analyze it. Yeah, it was really eye-opening.
Yeah, when did that happen? When did that change in perspective happen for you?
When I was in Iraq, like I was reading a lot of books when I was deployed. And when I got there, we were getting mortared. We were getting hit by mortars 10 times a day. And first day I got there, I hit the ground. Like we had to take cover so we wouldn't get hit by the mortar shells. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, of course they're attacking us because they don't want us here. Like, why are we even here? Like the mission that I was there to support was we were fixing the base that we bombed. So like they were spending millions and millions of dollars to fix the base that they bombed to give back. And like and on paper it's like, oh, that's nice, that's a diplomatic thing, but it's like we shouldn't have been there anyways. Like to be real, like the Iraqi invasion was not necessary, and all of that, right? And not going to go into like the politics of that, but like that in my like bones, I was like, I should not be here. We should not be here. This is all an illusion. So then I started reading more military books written by military leaders that served huge campaigns that talked about like the missteps of the military, the miscommunications, the big egos, like. So yeah, so it was really, and none of this the military encouraged. I did this on my own. I'm not the only one. I know lots of people do it. But yeah, so the fact that they also weren't encouraging this was also telling too.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating to me because you're the second American I've talked to on the podcast that has joined the military. And it was just like, okay, well, I just decided to join the military. Whereas in Canada, I don't think anybody has even, like, I haven't met anyone that's even considered
why?
Joining the military.
You have free healthcare. Right? Like the U.S. military is extremely exploitative. They come into poor, low-income towns and cities with these amazing benefits.
Okay.
I don't know what your schooling is like. Do you have free school also?
Yeah. Yeah. Up until university. I mean, university is
Oh,
not
okay.
included.
Well,
You
okay.
have to pay for university. Um,
Okay. Okay.
but we do pay less than international students. I think it's like that in America too.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, so I wonder even like, your costs, right? Like how much is your tuition, because it is ridiculous here. Like
I don't think it's as
awful.
high. I've been out of university for 20 years now. I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know what the tuition is, but 20 years ago, it was about $8,000 a year for us. And
That's
yeah, that's
amazing.
tuition.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of places here. Well, in Massachusetts, anyways, Massachusetts, it's considered a little bit more liberal, so I think the numbers are a little lower of how many,
Mm,
but of how many people join. But Massachusetts schools are extremely expensive. They're quote unquote prestigious, but a lot of them are private. So
mm.
you're paying 30,000 a year, and when
Oh my
I
goodness.
a year, yeah, yeah. That's for undergraduate. That's for
Yeah.
undergraduate. My master's was over 60,000 for 2 years.
Oh
Um,
my
and the only
goodness.
reason why I was able to pay for that out of pocket, no, or not even out of pocket, no loans, was because of the military. Like
Mm.
I
Are
didn't
there
grow
grants
up thinking I'm
available?
gonna go.
Are there grants and scholarships available?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm sure there are, but they're hard to get into. Loans are a lot more easier and advertised to people. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
first gen navigating grants and loans,
Right.
it's a little easier to not do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to not go to school. So there's such a deep history in regards to like why military service is so high, right? So that's like one of the
Right.
layers is like it's really exploitative. The benefits are very good, and the benefits are very like socialistic. Like I don't, this might turn a lot of people off, but like we get free healthcare, free school throughout the
Right.
military. Like
Right.
pay is equal. It's just based on rank is how you get paid, and it increases higher,
Yeah.
right? So that's why like military folks are living good now. I mean, it wasn't the same, right? A lot of veterans had to, or yeah, veterans had to fight for like what I benefited from, but
Mm.
so they use that to recruit people in. I went for
Mm.
school and I was hella honest. I was like, I don't have any patriotism. Like, I started to drink the Kool-Aid when I was in the military because that's what they break
They-
you down in basic training and then put the values in. So I started to like drink the Kool-Aid, right, of it. But then I went to Iraq and I was like, absolutely not. This is dumb.
Mm.
And then started reading more books that encourage critical thinking, right?
Yeah.
Um
Is there any
and yeah, so then
psychological
so that
exam? Is there any psychological exam that you have to like
no,
pass before?
not when
No.
I went through, not when I through, not
Okay.
not for mental health. I don't want to speak for again this joined in 2007.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's changed now. The only test
Okay.
I had to take before joining was like an academic test. Like it was almost like an IQ test essentially. And that helped you figure out what jobs you can qualify for. Um
Okay.
and to
So
make it. So yeah.
very low barrier to entry. Oh wow.
They
Okay. So
do a health screener. Yeah, they do
like
a
a
health
physical
screener,
health?
but it's all yes. But they also depend on you to be honest about your answers, right? So it's very you could easily be like, no, I've never, experienced this, and that. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Especially if you're getting free healthcare, right? Like you're gonna hide
totally.
some things.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you spent a good chunk of years there. What happened after?
Mm-hmm. I took a gap year because I knew I wanted to go. So I was able to get my bachelor's while I was in the military. So then I took a gap year to apply to a master's programs in social work. I had decided I'm going to pursue that because that was the easier route than becoming a psychologist. Everybody I talked to, even psychologists, that I connected with was like, yeah, no, honestly, like it wasn't worth doing like the PhD because you can be a
Mm,
therapist and you kind of make and this was the military, like you make the same in the military regardless, I think, with a little
okay.
extra whatever, but I took the path of least resistance and did the masters instead. So in that gap year I worked in an integrated preschool and preschool, integrated preschool class as a teaching assistant. So there I learned a lot more about child development and, like what kids need in regards to attunement and like secure attachment. So that kind of opened up my eyes to like what I didn't receive as a kid, because I was doing like my own reading and stuff about healthy attachment. And then I got accepted to Boston College for my master's and got pregnant in the same summer.
And
Yeah.
how did you manage school? Okay, wait.
Yeah.
You got pregnant, so you're pregnant for 9 months and you got accepted. So did you give birth while you were still in school?
Yep. During my spring break.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
how did
Yeah.
you
I
finish the
mean,
semester with a newborn?
I don't know. I blocked out a lot of it, to be honest. Like,
Oh
just
my
lack of like
goodness.
sleep anyways, to be honest. Like, I was very open, so that really helped me practice my like advocacy skills and, trying not to suffer in silence. So I immediately told, my field placement, my advisors, like, hey, I'm expecting, this is when I'm supposed to deliver, this is what I need for support. So I got extensions. I took a break. I like moved my schedule around. So yeah, that I think in past me would have just like pushed through and white knuckled it. But my husband was really encouraging to be like, nah, ask them for support. Like no, like take support from them. Like they are a social work program. They should be supporting you. So that was really
Mm.
encouraging. So yeah, I did that, and that was really helpful. It was hard for sure, but it worked out because it was spring break. I only had a few weeks of classes left, and then I had the summer.
Okay. So is that where your advice comes from? That one experience there, or is it more of a collection of experiences where you would tell your younger self that you don't have to do everything alone? So this is what you said.
That's a
My
collective.
advice, yeah, okay. You said, my advice for my younger self is that you don't have to do everything alone and by yourself. You have friends that you love and love you, so it's okay to lean on them. Hyper independence is going to burn you out and keep you lonely. Community is healing. So
Yeah,
it kind of started with that. That was one of the situations that got you
that was
onto
one
this.
of it, but not the catalyst. And actually, what
Okay.
broke me to be vulnerable and reach out was actually when I was 21 in
Mm.
England, and it was a breakup. Like it was this heartbreaking at the time, just like gut wrenching. Like this boy, like this, he was not a boy, he was like a man, like he was our age or whatever. I think we were 21. I had really unsecure attachment, right? If you're familiar with like secure, disorganized, like I was very avoidant, and then I would like just I was very immature and I very wounded, right? As I can kind of look back at little younger me, I was very wounded. So I would like put up this wall, and then when people would respect that wall, I'd be like, no, come back. I was just kidding. I'm sorry. So I put this person through so much, and I'm so proud that he like was like, I'm not dealing with your shit anymore. So he was like, I'm good, we need space. And I was like, no, my like heart just broke, and it really put me in check. So I like connect with my best friend, shout out to Pauline, and was like, he won't take me back, like I'm so sad. And she's like, yeah dude, that sucks, I'm sorry, and just like held space for me. And that was so beautiful. And I normally would have just like kept it in, dealt with it alone. And anytime I felt sad, like I like started then reaching out with people. Like I started like watching movies with people just to help. And I now recognize I didn't have a way to cope with things at all. And again, not to say that I didn't have friends, I just didn't lean on them during moments of vulnerability like that until that
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Well, you grew up not really doing that either, right? You
Right.
mentioned that you
And when
weren't.
I did, right.
Mhm.
And when I did, my mom, because I would always go to her when something happened, and she would be so mean about it. She would be like, well, that
It's
was your fault. Like literally would
yeah.
be like, oh, that's your fault. You shouldn't have those feelings anyways. Like I remember having a moment where me and my cousin, she was like, like not real cousin, but like family
Yeah.
cousin. We like the same boy, and she ended up dating him. And I was like so sad. And I told her, and she goes, that's good. You shouldn't be dating anyways. And I was like, you effing B. Like, How dare you? And I don't know even know what I expected for her to even say. Like, I'm not surprised she said that, but
Oh man.
that was just me in my moment of weakness.
Yeah. So, okay, I think we digressed a bit because we started talking about community. What were you saying before that?
Oh no,
Because
I
you
think
had
it's
just
pretty connected. Yeah, because you had asked like if that was the catalyst to me being more vulnerable, right? It was when I was in grad school and pregnant. So
right.
that was a
That
time where I really like leaned into it. Like it wasn't hard for me to do it. Yeah.
yeah. So you were like
Um
still in your early 20s then, though.
no, I was late. I was for grad school. I was pregnant at
Yeah.
26. Yeah,
Okay. So
27.
mid 20s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mid
Yeah.
20s. Yeah, yeah.
You talked to some psychologists and other people in the field, and that's why you're like, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to take the easy route. Well, not easy route. The path of least resistance are your words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, were you certain that you wanted to do that after talking to a bunch of people?
Yeah, for sure. I knew therapy and healing was where I wanted to be. I had thought about
Mm-hmm.
going into public health instead. Also, like I thought a hot minute, like, ooh, do I want to get my master's of public health instead? Because I do love
Mm-hmm.
like that preventative care and outreach. But I decided not to because I do love that like more mental health psychology piece. So that was like
Mm-hmm.
not that was a given for me. And I'm glad I did for sure, but I have many druthers with like the mental health industrial complex and that, you know, speaks to where my work is now. But yeah, I'm really glad I did the 2 years. I learned some like I because a lot of stuff that I ended up learning in my program I unlearned because it was a very Eurocentric colonized way of mental
Approach.
health.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
approach, right? So
S-
a lot of it was very biased. So when I went into the field, right after, I worked in Lowell, Massachusetts, with a lot of immigrant families, so lower socioeconomic. None of the stuff that they taught me was working
mhm.
with these clients, with these families,
Mhm.
because they did not have a trauma informed lens.
So
And then I
how did you
recognized
bridge that?
a lot of, I think, self-learning in regards to just like finding other resources. I did a lot of trainings, to be honest. Like I went out and did my own continuing education, and what really like resonated with me was mindfulness work.
Mhm.
A lot of mindfulness and neurobiology work, and I speak to this in other spaces, but you know, as I was in this journey, you know, post grad, mindfulness was already blowing up in the mental health field, and I recognize like a lot of this mindfulness is based out of Buddhism. So that kind of perked my senses of like our healing practices are being appropriated also, and not being taught, and that was what was working, right? The evidence is showing with my clients that teaching folks how to like tap into compassion and sit with the pause and be curious, that was resonating more than, oh, but like what are your thoughts and like how can we reframe your thoughts? Like maybe your neighbor wasn't being racist, right? Like that's what
Mm.
CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is to like explore. There's so much exploration of your thoughts rather than learning to sit with like the whole experience.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it was a lot of my own exploration and then like outside mentorship.
Where did you find your mentors?
So during that time I had supervisors and they were okay. Like I would get as much as I can. I really tapped
Mhm.
into a lot of other therapists that resonated and connected, like that like felt aligned. And then when I moved to Guam, that was actually more my like journey of seeing like how big systems affect us. So I that's when I opened my private practice, my private therapy practice, which is all virtual during like the 2021, and from there I really started my journey in decolonizing personally and also professionally, bringing in the discussion of how these systems has affected not just us present, but also our ancestors and our elders, right, and our family of origin, and being able to connect the dots of why our parents may be so quote unquote cold or non-responsive, right, to our needs. And it's like because they were traumatized, and recognizing what systems affected their grandparents, right? So bringing that into the space for more context, so then we don't blame and shame ourselves, because that's a lot of what happens in the more Eurocentric mental health care, is that like, oh, you come into the room with these symptoms, like what are you not doing correctly, or what are you doing to have these things happen? It's not that simple.
I want to talk about your initials behind your name. What do they stand for? LCSW and then LICSW.
So they represent the licensures that I hold to be able to have to independently practice as a therapist. So it's
Okay.
Licensed clinical social worker, and then licensed independent clinical social worker. The LICSW shows that I'm licensed in Massachusetts. The LCSW, I'm licensed in Hawaii, in Wisconsin, and Colorado.
Oh, very
And
cool.
Guam.
So every state has its own licensing. And why did you decide to
Yes, it's so
do
annoying.
like those select states?
Yeah, so all of them I lived in except for Hawaii and Colorado. Hawaii, it was my first, that was my initial licensure, and it was because it was easier. I played the game and found found that they needed less hours so I could practice sooner. Once you have one independent licensure, you can then apply to other states as reciprocal, that word that I can't say, like
Reciprocal?
yeah, that one. And so then you don't have to do like the whole test and the whole thing over
Right.
and over, and kind of like quote unquote transfers. Colorado, I thought I was going to move there, so I was like, let me just get the license. And yeah, so all the other places I've lived in.
And then you're also EMDR certified practitioner. What is that?
Yes. Yeah, EMDR therapy is a specific type of bottom top therapy. So I'm a somatic therapist and guide. So the healing that I help guide towards is always like body based. It always includes the body and mind and spirit, right? So EMDR therapy is very somatically body based, and it stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And it is a present and future therapy that we are helping with symptoms, issues that you're dealing with present and future, by helping desensitize past experiences, past distressing experiences, because science has shown, right, research and science shows that unprocessed memories, trauma stays present in your brainstem as raw sensory data. So when we're presently getting triggered, right, our kids are yelling at us or whatever, we're feeling unheard, and we get, and then, we feel this quote unquote overreaction. Not to say that we shouldn't feel activated, but if you feel like this huge overreaction, that actually might be an emotional flashback. So the past coming into the present. And it's not always based on what we remember or context, right? It's the feeling. Because what happens is all those past moments and experiences has not made it into our hippocampus, right? Which is the part of the brain for long-term memory storage. So all those memories are just floating in this time-space continuum, feeling like everything is connected and related.
And you can't really
So
pinpoint like why you're reacting that way because it's not in your
not
long-term
at the
memory.
moment. Correct. Not at the
Okay.
moment. It's so much harder, right? Like it's possible, but it's so much harder. And you usually can't when you're dysregulated, right? Because when you're dysregulated, you're either fight or flight or freeze mode. And so EMDR helps those memories. And it's it's an 8-phase approach. So it has a really great roadmap and how you do it. But but me as a facilitator and the guide, I help you in a very contained space and at your pace revisit those memories and help move that memory, everything connected to that memory into the long term. So when you bring it up, it feels neutral. So it's not activating your nervous system anymore. So when you're able to do that, things that is connected to it in the present doesn't get as activated because you have essentially less ammo, right, for what's in the present.
Wow.
I hope that made sense. It's a little complex and it sounds so abstract.
No, it just to me it makes sense because it explains a lot. And how do people find you? Like, and how do you find clients and how do people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on directory. So I'm on inclusivetherapists.com. That's a beautiful directory. Zen Care, but also I'm on Instagram. So, folks, and then my website, resetresilientwellness.com. I've had a lot of clients just Google EMDR therapist and then find me, or somatic therapist and find me somehow. I'm not like at the top Google spot. So I feel like it's very aligned when folks find me. But yeah, and I can talk a little bit more of kind of like where I'm shifting to with my business if we have
If you could, please. Yeah, definitely. Because I'm very curious to know more of what you do because I love the content that you share on Instagram. You said that people find you through Instagram as well. Like people will come across your posts and be like, I want to work with her. Oh, cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they'll hit me up a lot, and a lot. So that kind of has why I'm kind of pivoting to mentorship and guidance work. It's still the same healing process and approach. Nothing changed. It's just that it's not called therapy because as you can hear, right, like therapy, the quote unquote therapy space is very gatekeeping. So I would technically not be able to be allowed to work with folks outside of those 5 places I'm licensed. But if I'm just a guide or a mentor, there's nothing to hold me to that. There's no regulating agency to do that. So I'm actually then expanding my net, my community to be able to offer, because I've had folks hit me up and I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I'm not licensed in your state, so I can't. So where I'm shifting to is offering more short-term contained sessions. So I think too, maybe folks in our community, and I don't want to generalize, but just hearing folks like being interested in therapy, but therapy can be really scary, right? Because it's like, it might be a long-term thing. I'm not ready to commit, and all of that. So I wanted to create a container where it's a little lower stakes. So I'm creating 6 sessions. So you don't have to do it in 6 weeks, but 6 session containers of somatic and mindfulness spiritual guidance. And they're structured but completely personalized for you. And that's one-on-one work with me. So that's where I'm offering. That's a newer thing I'm offering. I'm also offering and opening up 90-minute, I call them deep dives. So they're just one-on-one or like one time. So there's no commitment. It's just one time, like 90-minute sessions that you could do. So I do have like specific sessions that you can pick. There's one is like if you want to learn how to befriend and nourish your nervous system, that's one. Another one is like kind of an intro to somatic and mindfulness. That's one. And another one's like pick my brain, and it's whatever you want to ask about. And I have some like topics that you can ask about. And then I'm creating, and then I'm creating a growing library of recorded. So this is like kind of like a la carte. You can pick what you want. So it's going to be recorded meditations and mini courses and like, I don't know what to call them, like PDFs, right? Like of just tools and stuff that people can have access to for $10 a month. So it's going to be a membership to that.
So just to be clear, like you don't work strictly with the Khmer population, like you're open to
not just
all populations. Okay. Can you tell me, you mentioned that you're doing some work with Brian as well. What is that?
Yeah, so we worked on the presentation for the Khmer Healing Summit, where we created the "It Didn't Start With Us" presentation. So we have nothing is like in the works yet. or we haven't built anything yet, but we are in collaboration to kind of continue that collaboration on the history and how that affects our mental health. We got really great reception and feedback on how helpful it was to learn about Bakbat and the history of like colonization and Khmer and all of that. So yeah, we plan to kind of brainstorm some other ideas to bring that to folks that didn't get to see it during the Khmer Healing Summit.
Are you fluent in Khmer, or do you speak Khmer like well?
I would say conversationally. I would say
Okay.
I feel more confident saying I'm conversational, but not fluent.
Okay.
But I would say I used to be like a fluent speaker as a kid growing up, and then I shifted, when I moved away, I lost a lot of that fluency.
Right. Because Bakbat, I'm not fluent in Khmer. How did you learn about that word?
Bong Ryan introduced me to
Okay.
that when we were last year, when we had initially we're going to collaborate. I had talked about, okay, like I'm going to bring this in and talk about colonization. He's like, have you ever seen the article on Moxbot? I was like, no, I haven't. So he shared that with me, and I was like, oh, we got to bring this in. We got to talk about it. So yeah, he's just such a plethora of knowledge.
Right.
So yeah, really
Yeah.
grateful for him.
I'm excited about your project.
Thank you.
So you already shared with us what you'd like to, where you're taking your business. You
Yeah.
mentioned that you also have a 9-year-old daughter or
And I
son.
have a 6-year-old.
Oh,
Yep.
you have a 6-year-old too.
Daughter.
Okay.
Yep. So I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son.
Well, if they're listening to this in say 10 years, what do you want to say to them?
That they're their coolest, and I love them no matter what. They don't have to do anything to make me love them more or less. Like, just be you.
Do they know what you do? Like, do they have an
Yeah. Oh
understanding of
yeah.
what you do? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Because when I leave, because of my own childhood experience, when I leave, even for a couple moments or the couple hours, I always let them know, like, hey, I'm going to do this. And of course, they're so inquisitive. So they're like, what, why, what does that mean? So yeah, I share with them a lot. And then I do some like activism in the community too. And they come to some of the events and all of that. So yeah, they're really super connected also.
Can you tell me about some of your the work that you do in the community?
Yeah. So I'm part of this collective in Milwaukee. It's a collective of healing, wellness, and other activist organizers. So it's a group of us. So it's called Milwaukee Wellness for Palestine, and we all offer. So it's like I'm part of the leadership team, and so there's a lot of like planning and organizing in that space, but we offer healing wellness services once a month. So we'll like one person will host a workshop, one or two people will host a workshop, and 100% of those funds that we get from participants will go to a specific Palestinian organization. So in January and April, I led a honoring your sacred rhythms workshop with sorry about that. I hosted in January and April a sacred rhythms workshop with a herbalist. And so I talked about like how capitalism and colonization like causes our nervous system to go into urgency, fight, flight, freeze, and then I led mindfulness centering activities, while my partner brought in like specific herbs that help you slow down and help you tap into that like calm and groundedness. So yeah, so we did that. So again, 100% of that goes into these organizations that we vet,
Amazing.
pre-vet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you.
So we should be wrapping up now. Before we do that, can you tell us like one or two things you'd hope listeners to take away from that you hope listeners can take away from your story?
Yes. I hope listeners can take away that your story is important, and know that your story deserves to be heard, and that it's complex and messy, and there's not just black and white. A lot of times we expect things to be easy, and that's kind of just a natural survival response to need it that way. Yeah, there's a lot of beauty in that complexness, and there's nothing wrong with that. When I was able to sit with things that were in the gray and really learn to pause in that and be curious, that left a lot of room for healing for me and started a lot of my journey in exploration. And I didn't talk a lot about this during my story, but I do say it in other spaces. But rest is so important, and I know how much that is. I know how hard that is in our community. We going back to like that like immigrant mindset, even if we aren't, the direct immigrant, because it is survival, right? There's so many reasons why rest is unsafe for us, and so foreign, but rest is really foundational, right, to being able to create ease and healing, right? We can't heal as much as we try to through pure force, right? There has
Yeah.
to be rest and space for the healing to happen. And I love that we're talking so much more about healing and our stories, and that has become such more in the consciousness. But I think oftentimes we get caught up in the like, I need to heal, so I need to do this, that, and the other thing, and it creates that cycle. So I want to remind folks, like, don't sleep on the rest, but definitely sleep, right? But don't don't knock how amazing rest is for our spirit.
Yeah. I mean, just to add on to that, there's also this guilt about resting too, because our parents
Mm-hmm.
always were working and you really didn't see them resting. So you don't even
No.
really know how to rest yourself. You're just like, go, go, go. Okay, what's the next project? What's the next thing I have to do here?
Right.
Yeah, always ticking things off
Absolutely.
the list. And I mean, that could also be because we live in a capitalist society too, where, things you try to be as productive as possible with the time
Mm-hmm.
that you have
Mm-hmm.
on this earth. Hmm.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so connected, and that's what for sure makes it hard to rest, is that, but also like recognizing like that is so temporary, right? All the things that
Mm,
we produce like, um even when it's meaningful, it's like, but at what cost?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally get it. Your episode is not going to be published until, I don't know, probably September because I'm
Yeah.
pausing the
You're
publishing for
taking a
right now.
break?
And I am taking a break. Yeah. But
Yay.
I'm trying to rest. I was like, oh, it's gaining good momentum. I want to keep going, but I'm
Right.
like, I'm so tired. I need to rest.
Yeah, no, totally. My other one, I didn't plan for the pause, but I'm like, it was just a
uh,
natural pause, and I didn't come back to it because like my interests like kind of shifted. But I was going, like, I have almost 50 episodes in, and it was growing. It was like huge, like not huge following, but it was a pretty good following. But I'm like,
uh,
this isn't fun anymore. Like, I don't, like, I'm
uh,
tired. I was staying up late editing and all of that, and I'm like, it's not worth it. And I wasn't making money off of it. It was
exactly.
like a passion project. So
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I busting my ass to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a part of me that I'm like, oh, I want to get back into it, but then I do want to sleep too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know
No,
what? We
totally.
didn't
Oh
even
no,
talk
that was
about your
just my journey.
podcast.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
let's your podcast before we end because we didn't even touch on that. I totally forgot.
So that is called, it used to be called the Millennial Therapist Podcast
Hmm.
with Mao and Neo. But now it's called Decoding Crime and Culture. So that should come up in Spotify. And that was or is a podcast that is true crime and forensic psychology based, but has more of like a socio-political lens. Because we are social workers, we really zoom out, and rather than pathologizing these perpetrators and the victims, we really look at how did the systems fail both of them, right? How were these crimes prevented? Because a lot of times that's not talked about when these crimes are mentioned. So we wanted to bring that conversation in, that narrative in of like white supremacy, capitalism, homophobia, right? Yeah, a lot of that was, a lot of times these serial killers are slapped with they were just antisocial. Okay, but what caused them to be antisocial? That is not that's something that you're not just born with. So that was a really nice creative outlet for us to get all our thoughts out.
We talked about how people find you. Can you just remind us? You're active on Instagram, and I love your Instagram posts because they always resonate with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're talking to me.
Thank you. That means a lot because I do. Handle? Yeah. Yes. Yeah? So my Instagram handle is at Mao Beckett _ reset resilient. And then I have a website that has a lot more information about my services, but also more information. Like I kind of expand on my Instagram posts through my editorials. So that's under resources, my resources tab. So yeah, I have a lot more resources on my website. So that's resetandresilientwellness.com.
Okay.
And I have a Substack. Yeah. And then I have a Substack where I have archives that you can definitely check out. Again, I took a pause on that and writing because I was doing monthly newsletters, but I have a Substack that you could just search under Mao Beckett, but you can also go to my website and you can subscribe that way. And I don't have a paywall for any of this stuff. So that's one of the ways that I help, that I want to, give to the community is not monetizing these sources.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. Because everything you share is it's so impactful, and
thank you.
It's really nice to see, like a therapist talk about what we're feeling. It's different. I've never been to therapy, so I haven't had like that, the sessions that are Eurocentric that you were talking about. But I imagine like from what I see on TV and stuff, like it's just sort of it's something that I don't think I would be comfortable with, especially with a stranger. I know that they try to, develop a relationship with you, but like this collective healing thing, I think one of your posts was speaking about collective healing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's how I feel more comfortable healing, where you're hearing other people's stories.
Yes.
And then you can connect that way. Yeah. And I feel like that feels more natural to me,
Yeah, that's more natural to us. That's in our ancestral way of healing, right? We heal with like food. We heal with like community get-togethers and communal ways. So this like Eurocentric, like therapy in itself, I don't want to take away because talking circles is within the indigenous community, right? So there's like, but you're in a circle talking, right? Like you're with other people, like spirited, like experienced people. There's such a hierarchy and power dynamic in therapy, innately in this type of mental health industrial complex that is uncomfortable. And that's why I want to be more visible, and why I talk about my own struggles as a therapist and a healer in a lot of different spaces, because let's be real, like who are you? You're not going to heal with a blank slate. And that's how they teach therapists to be, is to be a blank slate. And that is traumatizing in itself, especially if you are a person from a marginalized population and community.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey on becoming a therapist, Mao. All the best with the expansion and services to also becoming a guide. I found our conversation enlightening and empowering. What you're doing is important work, and the more people you can reach, the better for us as a collective.ទាំងអស់គ្នាអរគុណច្រើន again for your support with Khmer Voices. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode with Mao, please share it with them. And be sure to come back in 2 weeks for another episode of Khmer Voices.